My main goal when trying to develop some of these topics was to make sure that we had things that were tangible that students could actually impact day to day. So think about community violence. They can have a direct impact on that with a conversation with the childhood poverty or hunger, and we do. That's something that our students don't know that some of their peers have going on at home. But when we do the backpack program, some of our schools, it was a huge success. But one of the larger barriers was the way that students were being treated by other students. The stigma that was attached to getting that backpack.
Really? Okay.
So some of our schools,
I'm not familiar with the backpack program. Can you explain that just a little bit for me?
So the backpack program was a partnership between the Waterloo School District and the food bank. And what was happening was that students were able to take home food in backpacks over the weekend. But one of the issues we had was that seeing a student carrying that backpack on a Friday, every other student knew that that family didn't have much money and they needed food. And unfortunately, that became a thing that students were being bullied about. Right? So our students having, and in this program specifically, understanding that stigma that's attached, now they have the ability, the knowledge, the strength really to stand up and say that's not okay.
Wow. You know? Okay. Wow. That's great. That's
so I think
great.
that's something they can directly impact just by stopping any of that bullying that's happening, or they don't let it happen in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they inform people about why that's important. I think defining your own successes was one of those things that it's a challenge for all of us. Even as an adult, I don't know what successful is. For me, it's just my goal every day is to do the best I can at whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And if I can do that, I'm successful. A lot of times, I think our young people get so caught up in what the media says success is supposed to look like. They get caught up thinking that because LeBron James makes a lot of money and everybody knows his name is success.
Yeah.
Whereas we create that own spectrum of success for ourselves. So if we rise above the status quo, if we do better than our parents, is that success? Well, it is if that's what you want it to be.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we really have to hit home, because if our students think that success is something that somebody else can define for them, they'll never reach true success.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that ties right into that self-confidence. In 2017, there's so many things that are geared towards tearing down young people. And I think in order for them to be okay with themselves, they have to understand that self-confidence, you really have to be in tune with your star player. And that has to be yourself. If you let anybody else be that star player, how can you achieve what you want to achieve?
Yeah.
If you give people the power to tear you down, they will. If you give them the power to build you up, they will. But at what point do you need to take control of that? So self-confidence needs to be more than just feeling good about yourself and feeling good about the task that you can complete. You also have to understand that anybody's issue with you is their problem. Anybody's wanting to tear you down is their problem. Your self-confidence has to be something that is a fail-safe to let you know that you're important. And I think when you have that, you have courage to stand up against bullies. You have the ability to stop community violence. You have the ability to go out and seek employment because you know you have worth. And I think through the Hip Hop and Literacy program, we're teaching kids education has value. And the fact that you have the accessibility to be in a program like this means that you're valuable. So it brings all those things together. People are investing time and energy and money into you because you have value. That does a lot for their self-confidence. But if they don't know that, then it doesn't go very far. And then lastly, I wanted students to look out and see the environment that they live in every day, whether it's the brick and mortar building, it's the trees that they see, and understanding how conservation and hip hop go together. Tupac talked about the roads that grew from the concrete. And that's significant because nature does play a specific role, in how we feel about ourselves. And I think hip hop has a history of standing up for the voiceless, the powerless. Right now, our environment is that thing that's powerless. As human beings, we have a huge impact on that. Well, Mother Nature only pushes back when we know about it with hurricanes and different things like that. But we cut the grass, we plant the trees. So we have the power to either destroy Mother Nature or help conserve it for a generation that's coming. And I don't know about anybody else, but I love the grass. I want my daughter to have something to play when she gets a little bit older. And I think that this generation, with all the political and social things that are going on with global warming, is going to play a really pivotal role. Either we can move on it and do some things to make sure that we are in a position to be successful in the future, or we can keep it on the back burner and understand that we'll have to pay for that. So those are some of the things that I think are really, really important that we discuss and we talk about and our youth get involved in, because at the end of the day, this is their world. We're just living in it.
That's right. Is there anything that you've learned in your position as a representative that kind of was either a surprise or alerted you to a level of urgency that you hadn't anticipated prior to assuming the role that you have now?
Right. A lot of it was the excuse me, the nuances in funding. In the specific areas of where it comes from, how it's prioritized. One thing they use now in politics that I'm learning is, if you really know about priorities, you look at where money is going. We can say education is a high priority, but look at where funding is going.
Yeah.
Right. We give a lot of money to large corporations. So for me, there's people always talk about how we want to support programs in the schools, but we're actually taking funding away from those programs. We wanted to make sure that DHS does the best job that they can, but we're taking resources away from DHS. So for me, it was surprising to see how politicians, people like myself, unfortunately, go out and they tell people these messages, but then when it gets into the nitty and gritty, we're seeing that's not really what they're doing. They're actually prioritizing other things over what they're saying. So I think it shed a lot of light on holding people accountable, making sure that we're being I don't even want to say transparent. It's really just honesty at the end of the day. We have to be honest with people. And understanding, too, that in the state of Iowa, when I look and see that places specifically like the Office of Minority and Multicultural Affairs in Des Moines has been cut, that shows that, unfortunately, minorities and people of different cultures, different beliefs than the majority group aren't as important. Because we're not cutting, funding from areas where they would specifically use them. We're cutting it from the most disadvantaged populations of people in the state. And that shows that, unfortunately, we got a lot of work to do.
And finally, why should young people care and take an interest in politics?
For me, as a young person, I wasn't that interested, just to be honest. But I think we live in a world now where politics does impact our day-to-day more so than it has in the past couple of decades. Barack Obama was the first president in my mind, and in my lifetime, that I was able to see the political and the social collide. Bill Clinton was the first president that I can really remember having an impact. But Barack Obama really showed that when you do something politically, you can see the ramifications socially, and they collide every single day. With social media being out there, with some of the things that are happening at the top on the federal level with President 45, Donald Trump, there's a lot of things that he's doing, he's putting into place that are going to impact our youth every day. Working in a school, I see bullying, and I've never seen bullying based on politics before. That's something we're seeing. We have people threatening. That's fine, it doesn't matter. That's why your dad's going to get deported. Those type of things are something that our youth are going to face every day. Whereas, when I was in high school, middle school, that was never an issue. That was never something that was brought up. They're being bombarded with these messages, whether propaganda from the left, from the right, wherever it may come from. That's a real part of their appetite on social media every day. So they have to be involved. They have to be informed. I'm not saying you have to be a Democrat. I'm not saying you need to be a Republican. I'm saying you need to be informed so you can make informed decisions. Because if you're not educated and you're not informed about what you're doing, you may make decisions that have a negative impact on your life. And in today's world, you have to know where you're stepping before you step there.
And what can teachers do to help young people gain that appreciation, that awareness of the need to be informed?
I think they have to be willing to answer some of those difficult questions. I think they have to be willing to engage in that difficult dialogue at times. I understand the separation between being a teacher and not want to get too involved with certain things, but at the end of the day, some of our teachers are the only adults that are caring for some of our students. They're the only adults that some of our students are going to be comfortable asking that question to. And I'm not saying that our teachers need to be telling people who they're voting for, but they do need to let our students know and engage in conversations in which they allow our kids to think critically about decisions that are being made on their behalf. We talk about collective bargaining, and one of our students could not understand why our teachers were stressed out about collective bargaining. Well, that's a conversation that I think our teachers could have with our students, letting them know reason we're concerned is because this impacts my livelihood. This impacts my ability to negotiate my pay and my benefits. And this, I think students, the cogs start to turn. You can kind of see them, and then on the flip side of that, you'll find our kids being more empathetic. When on those tough days, you'll find our kids willing to pick up that slack and really fight for our teachers in a way that we haven't seen before. Because we're in this together.
Yeah.
There's no us versus them mentality, and if that's where we are, if that's what it is, then we're going to fail every time. But if we become a collective, teachers and students together to achieve a greater goal, only thing that can come from that is a win for our community and our society.